What if I told you the 1970s gave birth to cartoons so bizarre they were erased from history itself? Worlds of psychedelic madness, forbidden humor, and government fear. Animated series that tested sanity and morality before vanishing without a trace. These were not Saturday morning funnies, but nightmares wrapped in color. Today, we dig up the forgotten reels. These are the 12 strangest 1970s cartoons you'll never see again. Number 12. Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, 1972. Before Family Guy or The Simpsons dared mock suburban life, there was Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, a primetime cartoon that did it first and paid the price. Premiering in the early 70s, it followed Harry Boyle, a weary father trying to maintain control in a house ruled by rebellious kids and an opinionated wife. The humor was sharp, too sharp for its time. The show tackled topics like war protesters, free love paranoia, and political corruption through animated sarcasm. It was a rare collision of middle-class anxiety and counterculture chaos, all presented in Hanna-Barbera's deceptively simple style. Networks panicked. Religious groups called it unholy. Politicians branded it subversive. Sponsors fled, fearing backlash. Within 3 seasons, the show disappeared quietly, never rerun, and almost never mentioned again. Behind the scenes, writers like Tom Patchett and Jay Tarsis were told to tone down the political satire. They refused. ABC executives buried the remaining episodes, claiming family audiences do not want to be reminded of real life. Its legacy lives in whispers. Animation historians call it the missing link between wholesome cartoons and modern adult animation. Its tapes now exist only in low-quality VHS transfers traded among collectors. The show that mocked the American dream became its own cautionary tale, a reminder that sometimes truth wrapped in laughter is the most dangerous kind of storytelling. Number 11. The Point, 1971. Imagine a world where everything has a point except one boy who does not. The Point was a trippy animated allegory narrated by Ringo Starr that blended fairy tale innocence with existential dread. The story followed Oblio, the only round-headed child in a land of pointed people. Exiled to the pointless forest, he learns that meaning comes not from conformity, but from individuality. On paper, it was heartwarming. On screen, it was revolutionary. Produced by animator Fred Wolf and musician Harry Nilsson, its dreamy visuals and haunting folk soundtrack turned it into a cult masterpiece. But its anti-authoritarian undertones drew suspicion. Schools refused to screen it. Some television networks demanded edits removing lines that hinted at anti-war sentiment. Harry Nilsson himself faced pressure to tone down his script. He did not. He told interviewers the film was about thinking freely. But that was dangerous talk in a post-Vietnam America choking on conformity. The cartoon vanished from rotation after its initial CBS broadcast. Only years later did fans resurrect it through bootlegs and DVD reissues. Today, The Point stands as one of animation's most poetic rebellions, an artifact of a decade when even children's stories could challenge the system. Oblio's exile mirrors the show's fate, cast out for being different, remembered for being true. Number 10. Mission Magic, 1973. Before becoming a pop legend, Rick Springfield was a Saturday morning sorcerer. Mission Magic was his animated debut, part rock concert, part metaphysical adventure. Each episode saw Springfield and a classroom of kids transported through a magic portal to strange dimensions where music and morality collided. On the surface, it was wholesome fun. Underneath it, dripped with psychedelic energy. The animation pulsed with kaleidoscopic colors and cosmic patterns echoing the LSD era's residue. Springfield sang original songs, each hiding philosophical reflections about freedom, love, and rebellion. Parents' groups went ballistic. They accused the show of promoting mysticism and mind control. Evangelical networks condemned its magical symbolism. ABC pulled the plug after 1 season, and reruns were quietly banned in several conservative regions. Behind-the-scenes production was chaotic. Budget cuts forced animators to reuse sequences, while Springfield juggled a failing music career. Yet decades later, fans rediscovered it online, calling it the cartoon that predicted MTV. Its tapes are nearly impossible to find. Its soundtrack became a collector's item, and Rick Springfield himself later admitted he barely remembered recording the songs, as if the whole thing was some surreal fever dream. Mission Magic vanished like the spell it cast. But its message lingers. Creativity is the most potent magic of all. Number 9. The Mighty Orbots, 1974. Before Transformers, before Voltron, there was The Mighty Orbots, a cartoon too strange and too ambitious for its own good. It told the story of 6 transforming robots led by a human hero named Rob Simmons as they defended Earth from a galactic crime syndicate called Shadow. At first glance, it was a kid-friendly space adventure, but the deeper you looked, the weirder it became. The Orbots were not just machines, they had human emotions, jealousy, vanity, even desire. The tone swung between heroism and existential sadness. The art style mixed Japanese animation with Western humor, and the result confused American audiences. Critics could not categorize it. Was it science fiction? Was it parody? Or was it an allegory for the dangers of technology? It was all of those and more. But Disney's lawyers saw something else. The studio accused the producers of copying their earlier creation, The Black Hole, and threatened legal action. That lawsuit buried the Mighty Orbots before it could finish its run. Behind the scenes, animators spoke of constant interference. Network executives demanded edits to remove scenes considered too dark or too suggestive. What survived aired briefly, then vanished into obscurity. Decades later, anime historians rediscovered it, calling it the lost bridge between American and Japanese animation. Its mechanical designs influenced early robot anime, and its emotional tone predated later classics like Robotech. Today, only fragments survive on old VHS rips circulating among collectors. The Mighty Orbots dreamed of a world where machines could feel. Television was not ready for that dream. Number 8. The Barkleys, 1972. The Barkleys was a cartoon that looked innocent enough. A family of talking dogs living like humans in a suburban neighborhood. It sounded safe. It wasn't. Produced by DePatie Freleng Enterprises, it was meant to be a light-hearted animal version of All in the Family. The father, Arnie Barkley, was modeled after Archie Bunker, a loud, opinionated working-class dog constantly arguing with his wife and kids about politics and morality. The result was a cartoon dripping with satire, but satire and Saturday mornings never mixed well. Parents protested that the show was teaching children to disrespect authority. Advertisers complained it mocked consumerism. TV executives feared it would alienate family audiences. Within a single season, it was canceled. Behind the scenes, voice actors recalled being told to tone down jokes that referenced social unrest and civil rights. Writers slipped in coded lines criticizing hypocrisy and blind patriotism. Some of those lines survived. Broadcast others were edited out before airing. The Barkleys has since become an animation myth. Few original tapes exist. Its masters were reportedly destroyed during a studio merger. Animation historians call it the doghouse version of political commentary. Its theme song ended with the line, "Love one another." The irony is that the world it tried to love turned its back on it. Number 7. Fantastic Planet, 1973. Few animated films have disturbed and inspired as much as Fantastic Planet. This French-Czech masterpiece by René Laloux is not just strange, it is otherworldly. Set on a distant planet, ruled by giant blue aliens called dragshumans known as Oms, are treated like pets or pests. The film follows a young Om named Ter who escapes captivity and discovers the horrifying truth of his existence. The visuals are haunting. Every creature moves with dream-like slowness, every landscape feels alien, and every sound unsettles the soul. It was animation for philosophers, not children. When it premiered, it shocked audiences. Critics hailed its artistry, while moral guardians condemned its surreal violence and spiritual undertones. Several countries, including parts of the United States, briefly banned it, claiming it was psychologically harmful to younger viewers. Behind the scenes, Lelou battled censorship and funding issues. The Czech government almost shut production down, fearing its allegory about oppression mirrored communist control. Yet Lelou finished it against all odds. Decades later, Fantastic Planet became a cult icon, influencing musicians, artists, and filmmakers alike. Its message endures: freedom is not granted, it is seized. The film's slow, hypnotic rhythm lingers long after viewing. It whispers that humanity's strangest world is not alien at all. It is our own. Number 6. Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, 1972. At first glance, it looked like another silly Saturday morning spin-off. A rock band blasted into space, performing concerts among aliens. But Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space was far stranger than anyone expected. The show took the classic Archie Comics characters and hurled them into a cosmic odyssey. Josie, Valerie, Melody, and their pet cat Sebastian were trapped aboard a spaceship that drifted across galaxies. Every episode threw them into bizarre worlds ruled by tyrants, robots, or beings of pure energy. Behind its upbeat theme song lay an eerie tone. Many episodes hinted at Cold War fear and social control disguised beneath science fiction. Whole planets punished anyone who thought differently. Leaders silenced dissent through mind control or propaganda. Hanna-Barbera never admitted it, but the series mirrored real-world paranoia. Network censors grew uneasy. Some stories were rewritten at the last minute after studio executives complained they sounded too political. Animation frames with strange alien rituals and abstract death scenes were cut entirely before broadcast. It lasted only one season before vanishing from rerun schedules. Fans whispered that the show's interstellar wanderings were an allegory for America's lost innocence after Vietnam. Others believed the psychedelic designs frightened sponsors. When fragments of episodes resurfaced on old VHS tapes decades later, audiences were shocked by how dark it truly was. Bright colors and pop music hid messages about isolation and human arrogance. Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space began as a musical comedy. It ended as an unintentional space-age warning about power and survival. Number 5. The New Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, 1971. It was not just a cartoon. It was something no one had ever seen before. Live actors placed inside animated worlds. The New Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was both a technical experiment and a creative gamble. Produced by Hanna-Barbera, the series followed Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer, and Becky Thatcher as they leaped from one animated world to another, chased by the villainous Injun Joe. The concept was revolutionary, mixing real children with surreal backdrops long before Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But the magic turned dark. Production was plagued by technical nightmares. Green screen technology was primitive, leaving actors stranded for hours acting against invisible monsters. Budgets ballooned. Broadcast schedules shifted. Critics were divided. Parents complained the tone was too violent for children. Religious groups accused it of disrespecting moral authority. Some stations even refused to air episodes that showed Huck defying adult figures. Behind the scenes, crew members spoke of relentless studio pressure. Hanna-Barbera wanted family adventure, while the writers wanted a psychological fantasy. The conflict tore production apart. Only a handful of episodes aired before the network pulled the plug. Yet its legacy remains monumental. The show paved the way for future hybrid animation experiments decades before technology caught up. Today, The New Adventures of Huckleberry Finn survives only in fragments. A vision ahead of its time destroyed by fear and confusion. Number 4. The Roman Holidays, 1972. Imagine the Flintstones, but set in ancient Rome. That was The Roman Holidays. On paper, it was harmless family fun. In reality, it was a biting social parody disguised as history. The show followed the Herculei family struggling to survive in a Roman apartment complex owned by an angry landlord named Evictus. They drove chariots instead of cars and used messenger pigeons instead of telephones. Yet beneath the humor lay uncomfortable truths. The Roman holidays mirrored early 70s America. Unemployment, inflation, class tension, and mistrust in government all appeared in toga form. Critics noticed. Some labeled it subversive, others called it dangerous. Producers were forced to rewrite episodes that parodied real political scandals. NBC executives panicked when one story featured a corrupt senator bribing gladiators. Sponsors threatened to withdraw advertising if the tone was not softened. Behind the scenes, morale crumbled. Writers wanted satire, network heads wanted simplicity. The tension led to creative burnout, and the show was canceled after only 13 episodes. For years, it was lost. Reruns vanished from television libraries, and merchandise was discontinued. Only bootleg copies kept it alive. Today, the Roman holidays is remembered not for its humor, but for its bravery. It dared to show that every empire, ancient or modern, eventually collapses under the weight of its own hypocrisy. Number 3. The Secret Lives of Waldo Kitty, 1975. Few cartoons from the 70s are as strange or as misunderstood as The Secret Lives of Waldo Kitty. On the surface, it was marketed as a harmless parody of the secret life of Walter Mitty, with a timid house cat who escaped danger by imagining himself as a swashbuckler, a superhero, or a space explorer. But beneath the fluffy exterior was a surreal experiment that made networks uneasy. Each episode blended live-action footage with animated sequences, forcing viewers to jump between reality and fantasy in ways that felt disorienting for children. Waldo's heroic daydreams weren't cheerful escapes. They were desperate attempts to cope with a cruel world ruled by an abusive bulldog named Tyrone. What looked like silly comedy was actually a quiet allegory about fear, repression, and psychological survival. Parents complained that the show was too intense. Kids wrote letters saying Waldo's nightmares scared them. Then came the lawsuits. Producers of the original Walter Mitty story claimed copyright infringement and pushed for the series to be removed from circulation. Under pressure, studios halted production, shelved the masters, and ordered stations not to rebroadcast it. Behind the scenes, animators admitted they tried to create a child-sized existential drama, but the network wanted slapstick. The clash killed the show. Today, Waldo Kitty is a lost relic, its few surviving tapes grainy, its tone haunting, its message unmistakable. Even fantasies can become prisons. Number 2. The Kid Power, 1972. Imagine a cartoon where children overthrow adults. That was the wild premise of The Kid Power, an animated adaptation of the comic strip We Pals. It was radical for its time and too honest for mainstream America. The show followed a group of multicultural kids who formed a unity club to fight prejudice, greed, and corruption in their community. Each episode used humor to teach empathy and equality, but for many viewers, it hit too close to home. During its broadcast, civil rights tension was still raging. Some southern stations refused to air it, claiming it pushed social propaganda. Religious groups protested that it encouraged rebellion. One episode featuring children challenging police authority was pulled before airing. Behind the scenes, animators described endless censorship battles. Lines of dialogue were cut, entire storyboards rewritten. Producers were ordered to avoid the words racism or protest even when those were the story's core themes. Despite this, The Kid Power managed to air a single season, leaving behind one of the most progressive cartoons of its era. It was later praised for pioneering diversity in animation, showing children of different races working together long before such representation became common. Its legacy resurfaced decades later when modern animators credited it as an influence. Yet most of its episodes remain lost. The few that survived reveal a show years ahead of its time. The Kid Power dared to tell the truth through laughter. That is why the world silenced it. Number 1. The Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan, 1972. Hanna-Barbera's The Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan seemed like a harmless mystery cartoon inspired by Charlie Chan films. But its legacy is one of controversy, confusion, and erasure. It followed Detective Charlie Chan and his 12 children who solved crimes using wild gadgets and a van that could transform into anything. It was a mix of Scooby-Doo and spy fiction with an Asian-American lead. On paper, it looked groundbreaking. In practice, it ignited a firestorm. Critics accused it of promoting outdated stereotypes, while others accused it of sanitizing Asian culture for white audiences. The show's use of non-Asian voice actors drew outrage from advocacy groups who demanded it be pulled. Behind the scenes, things were worse. Scripts constantly changed to remove any hint of authentic Chinese culture. Animators recalled being ordered to avoid Chinese text symbols or historical references. Some of the original voice actors were replaced mid-season to quiet criticism, but by then the damage was done. CBS canceled it after 16 episodes and buried it deep in its archives. Syndication was rare. For decades, no network dared to re-air it. Yet animation historians still study it today as a cautionary tale of cultural erasure. It tried to celebrate representation, but became trapped between fear and ignorance. The Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan vanished into history. What remains is a reminder that progress often begins with missteps, and that even flawed attempts to bridge cultures deserve to be remembered. The 70s were an age of daring imagination when animation tried to grow up and face the world's shadows. Some of these cartoons vanished under censorship, others drowned in confusion. Yet each carried truth hidden in color and motion. Which forgotten cartoon haunts you most? Tell us below, and subscribe for more lost worlds of animation.